Rogers TV.
Interest payments were going up, creditors were calling. I finally realized I needed help. The people at Janes & Noseworthy really took care of me, and I'm glad I chose a local solution. I felt like they understood me better. Getting help with my debt has given me the energy, the headspace, and the time to make my dreams come true. A chance to start again with knowledge, support, and people in your corner. Are you looking for that kind of help? It's okay.
Learn more about Leah's story at janesnoseworthy.ca.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a very important episode of Out of the Fog. I'm your host, Laurabel. On tonight's episode, I'll be getting the chance to talk to two amazing women who happen to be breast cancer survivors about the upcoming Growing Our Strength Newfoundland and Labrador Breast Cancer Conference that will be taking place November 11th to 13th at the Sheraton Hotel in St. John's. So please take a seat and relax, and let's get into it after a few messages.
You're watching Rogers TV St. John's.
Watching hockey just got a power play with NHL Center Ice and Super Sports Pack. With up to 37 out-of-market NHL games a week, you'll always catch your favorite team no matter where you live. Whether it's big matchups you're looking for or following your top fantasy picks, it's all here. NHL Center Ice, part of the Rogers Super Sports Pack. All this for only $35.95 a month. Order through your remote on Channel 450 or call 1-888-ROGERS-1 today.
You're watching Rogers TV St. John's.
Welcome back, everyone. I am now joined by the wonderful Joan Aucoin, chair of the Breast Cancer Conference. Joan, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get into who you are, your wonderful story as a survivor, and what the conference is, what is the name and title of this year's conference?
It's Growing Our Strength Newfoundland and Labrador Breast Cancer Conference.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So how did this all start for you?
So I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 38 in 1999, so I'm a far-out survivor right now. So at the time, there was no support. I had called several organizations, and there was nothing available for a woman my age. So then I started a support group called Sharing Our Strength, which the public health nurse went from house to house and got this started for me. So that's how it all came about. And I'm happy to say that 23 years later, we're still functioning as a support group. And the conference actually started, Jerry Rogers started the conference in St. John's. And then we just continue the conference every year after. The whole purpose of the conference is to bring women together. As a woman, of course, you are a caregiver, and you tend to fill everybody else's cup before you fill your own. So, and you don't share how you truly feel about yourself and your image to your family, because you don't want them to know and you don't want them to worry. So at this conference, women come together. We do circle of friends. We sit at a table. We don't know each other. Everybody moves from table to table, and you share your story. So you can express your fears. You can cry. You can do whatever you want, and you're free to do that. And so that is one of the benefits of going to the conference. Also, the education part. We have genetics, breast reconstruction, self-care, mental health. So many, lymphedema, healing, laughter, sexuality. So all of these sessions happen on Saturday, and throughout the whole day they're concurrent sessions. So you have the opportunity to attend the ones that you feel would suit you best. And then in the evening we have red carpet, where everybody gets the opportunity to dress up.
Wonderful.
And we have a drag queen coming this year, so that's exciting. And then we have guest speakers, keynote speakers, and survivor speakers, and then we have entertainment. So you just like let your hair down, or take your wig off, whichever you prefer, and just enjoy the evening. So, you know, the reason why we're here is to get the word out, because since COVID, you know, everybody's so disconnected, and we just want people like the newly diagnosed and those who are surviving for many years to come together, because the newly diagnosed need to see that there is survival and that there is hope. So if you haven't registered, I hope that you would consider to do so, because it's so beneficial in so many ways.
So when you were talking about the conference and what people can expect, you talked about sharing their stories and creating a space where women feel safe to share their stories. Are you comfortable telling us a little bit about your story and what it was like finding out you were diagnosed with breast cancer?
Sure, yeah. So my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer at 52. So I was very diligent about self-breast exam. So I found the lump myself. I had several biopsies. They said it was a simple cyst, but that wasn't enough for me. I took it further. I wanted another biopsy done, and sure enough, it was cancer. So I had a mastectomy, and then a year later, I had a prophylactic mastectomy, and then I had the breast reconstructive surgery, which was successful. So I was one of the lucky ones. I didn't require any treatment because I had found it early. My tumor was only 1 centimeter. So because of that, I didn't require chemo or radiation. And because I opted to have the other breast off, I didn't require any treatment either. So it's a very personal journey. Like the choices you make are to suit you and how you feel. Like I watched my mother go through it, so I didn't really I wanted both breasts off, to be honest. I had 2 small kids and they were my focus. And so that's what I did. But like I say, like breast reconstruction is not for everybody. Mastectomy is not for everybody. So whatever you choose is your own personal choice and it's your own journey. You know.
So that's really touching for you to kind of share what that experience was like for you. So when you found your first lump, you were 38. So that's
was 38, yeah.
really early for a lot of women sitting there who aren't actively checking, because it's not something we get really busy in our days and we aren't doing the self-checks and self-examinations.
It's really important.
So what was the finding out that at 38 you had been diagnosed, did you feel like you were taken seriously for that first diagnosis?
At first, maybe not, because they just said like it was a simple cyst, and like because of my family history, which is many cancers actually, I was probably a little bit aggressive about it, and I really think you need to be your own advocate. I worked in healthcare, so I was well aware of how things happen. So I pushed for, they offered me lumpectomy and radiation, and I opted to have my breast off in the very beginning. And you know, I remember my daughter looked at the scar and she goes, "Ugh." And my son looked at me and he said, "Oh, Mom, that's so interesting." So, you know, you have to share with your children too. It's very difficult, obviously, and it's your image and it's everything, you know. But my husband was very supportive and I had a lot of family support as well. But your kids are your focus, obviously, right? So, you know, how they felt about it, I shared with them. I showed them the scars and explained to them, you know, what it was and things like that. And that's important, you know, to do that, to make them aware on a level that they can understand. You know?
So you're a mom and you have a daughter, and so breast cancer was something that your mom had, and it's something that you had. So how, as a mom, are you prepping your daughter that this could be a possibility and teaching her how to care for herself? Right.
So we have talked about that a lot. She is being followed by genetics. Dr. Lisa Dawson is following her, and she does self-breast, and she's healthy. Like she doesn't smoke, and she's eating proper, and you know, she's good at that. So she is well aware that it is a possibility that it could happen, you know. Hopefully not, but she's a mom now too, so a baby girl, so
it's definitely something that you've taken on and kind of educating your family and yourselves.
Yeah, you have to be an advocate for yourself and for your family.
So the conference, your first conference, what was that like for you?
So I've always been on the organizing committee. I've never been a participant. So that's kind of odd, but but I do enjoy it. Obviously, I've been doing it for like almost 23 years. It's very overwhelming and powerful at the same time. You see these women come in and they're totally lost You know, they don't think it's for them. And then at the end of it, they're all, you know, they're smiling. They're so glad they came. They made friends. The friends you make at these conferences are your lifetime friends. There's no doubt about it. You know, you just become so bonded, you know, because you're sharing the same experience, right? You're walking in the same shoes. So, you know, the conference for me that's why I keep participating, because I just love what I see at the end. It's really rewarding.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give you a minute now to kind of talk to our audience, and if there's anything you feel in your heart you want to say to everyone watching and listening about either breast cancer, the conference, or just their experience as a whole, what would you like them to know?
So I guess what I would say, if you know anybody going through breast cancer and they're not sharing, maybe you could share the breast cancer conference with them, and maybe this interview as well, because I know they're thinking it's not for them, but it truly is for them. And to the audience, all the audience, be your own advocate, especially when it comes to healthcare. And for women, do self-breast. That would be my recommendation.
And do you have any advice for partners, so people who aren't women or who don't identify as a woman, whom can support their partners or people in their lives going through breast cancer?
Well, support is huge, obviously. It's understanding what they're going through, like if you lose a breast or whatever, your scars or chemo, you lose your hair, whatever. It's important for that person to be able to identify with them, and still, you're not going through the experience yourself, so you don't really truly get it, to be honest. You have to have walked it to know, really. And that's why I always think these support groups and conferences are so important, because you can just be yourself, whatever your gender, whatever, you know, just come in and just let it all out.
Okay. Can you share again with me the information about the support group first?
Well, so the support group I started 23 years ago was Sharing Our Strength. So we have a private page on Facebook that people can talk openly and, you know, ask many questions. It's excellent because they can share their treatments, surgeries, whatever they're going through, and somebody will have an answer to help them. And if you can contact me, Joan Aucoin, 764-9266 is my cell number. And once you contact me, then you'll get you added to the group. And we also meet once a month, and we do a circle, and we all talk about where we've been with cancer, where we are right now, and where we've been with cancer. And if you know, it's just, if people can speak, great. If they don't want to speak and they're too upset, then we just pass them. But at the end of it, they have something to share. So that's my support group, which has been going for a long time. It's great. And the conference is the weekend of November the 11th to the 13th, and it's at the Sheraton Hotel. And if you haven't registered, please do. You can go to cancercare.ca, cancercarefoundation.ca to register, and all your information will be there. So.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great. Thanks.
It's been absolutely a pleasure to kind of get to know you as a person, to know a little bit more about the conference, and to know about your support group.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
And we'll be right back, everybody.
It all started when I racked up some serious debt. Interest payments were going up, creditors were calling. Janes and Noseworthy came up with a plan. Knowing that the phone was going to stop ringing and that I was not in this alone was a huge relief. Bankruptcy or a consumer proposal or whatever help you get is not the end. It's just the beginning. A chance to start again with knowledge and support and people in your corner. Are you ready? Get out of debt. It's okay.
Learn more about Leah's story at janesnoseworthy.ca.
Blood in the urine is the most common symptom of bladder cancer. Don't ignore this warning sign, not even once.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm now joined on the couch by Sonya White, breast cancer survivor and committee member for the Breast Cancer Conference. Sonya?
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so glad to have you. So before we get into all that the conference is and all that it offers to people who participate, let's get to know you a little bit. So how did you first get in contact with the conference and get to know Joan?
Okay, so I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 40 in 2016, so 6 years now this year. So initially, I didn't know it was only 40. I didn't know anybody else. I had an aunt who was diagnosed with breast cancer, but she lived away, so nobody in my immediate circle didn't know anybody with breast cancer. And I happened to meet a lady at my stepson's high school graduation. We were introduced through a mutual friend, and she had been part of, she had been like a couple of years out from her diagnosis, and she was part of the support group. So she encouraged me to go to a support group meeting, and I did. And very, like I said, at first, very kind of intimidated, because I was kind of, not really even realize that that was happening to me at that time, and that I even belonged there, that feeling of, you're at this support group meeting and I'm here because, it was huge, and I felt, but she, like I said, she guided me and brought me to the support group meeting, and I sat around and I listened to these women tell their stories and share their experiences, and like I didn't feel like I was alone anymore. That was a big piece for me, because like I said, I didn't know anybody, didn't know where to turn to. So when I met these women, I felt like, okay, I'm going to be okay. Yeah. So that's obviously how I met Joan. Joan has this support group meetings at her house monthly. Obviously during COVID, we haven't been able to do that, but yeah, monthly meetings, and met Joan, of course, and a lot of other beautiful women, and here I am.
So what was it like for you when you first found out you had breast cancer? Was it a self-exam that you found out, or was it at the hospital? Okay.
It was. So I did find the lump myself, and I went to my family doctor, of course, and still not really thinking at the time. I wasn't, maybe a bit of denial maybe, or not thinking at my age that was a possibility. So I found the lump myself. I went to my family doctor, and she ordered an ultrasound, so I was still kind of in the mode, okay, well, we'll get that done, because it's not going to be anything, and so we did that. I went and had my ultrasound done, and at that time, they told me I needed a biopsy, so that's kind of reality set in at that point in time. So I had it done the same day, actually, but then of course I picked up and I went on and I said, no, how many women have biopsies done and they don't end up being anything? It ends up being fine. So I went on a girls' trip at that point in time with some coworkers of mine. That's what our plan was. So I went and enjoyed myself there. And when I came back, the results were available. So I made another appointment with my family doctor, and she told me it was breast cancer. And you don't really hear a whole lot when you're sitting there. You're thinking breast cancer, and everything else just kind of gets in the background, gets drowned out. You're not hearing anything else that she's saying, because she just told you have cancer. Yeah, so that's finally when it struck me, like this is for real. And like I said a few minutes ago, I didn't know anybody else. I didn't know who to call. It was just me and my husband, and yeah, I felt lost. So like I said, I then went to see, the next step, of course, was to see a surgeon and discuss the options of, lumpectomy, mastectomy. And I made a personal choice, because I was only 40 at the time. I felt, well, if this could possibly happen to me now, like this is real, this is happening to me now, I don't want to have to do this again. But once again, it's a personal choice. Everyone is, make their own decisions based on how they feel. So I opted for a double mastectomy. So I went to my surgeon and requested that, and she was fine. She agreed to do that. So yeah, I did that, and I ended up having treatment. I needed radiation and chemotherapy. Yeah, so throughout that summer then, I did the treatment. By September, October, I was done all of my treatments. Yeah.
So you found out about the support group basically while you were going through treatment, or the initial diagnosis?
No, I found out about the support group through a mutual friend introduced me to this lady at my stepson's high school graduation. When we connected, and she she told me what was available, what resources were available. You know, we have this online support group. I can get you added to the group, and this goes on. So she did that for me. And then, like I said, she came, picked me up, and took me to a meeting. So that's how I got to find out about all the things that were available and all the other women who were going through the same thing that I was. Yeah, so that's pretty much word of mouth is how it happens, yeah.
Okay, so through the support group, you then found out about the conference.
I did. So I was diagnosed, like I said, that was in March, and at that time the conference was held in May. So during my chemotherapy was when the conference was going to be taking place, so I had no intentions on going to the conference. I felt it was too early. I was still dealing with a lot of emotions that this was even happening. And there's a full range of emotions that you experience, and you don't really have anywhere to vent those feelings to, only someone who's been going through who had been through or going through the same thing that you were. Because unless you're, like Joan said, unless you're personally going through it yourself, you don't understand. So there's a whole range of emotions that come with that, you know, anger being one, denial being another. And I felt like, conference, I'm not going to a breast cancer conference, I'm barely through my treatment. But once again, through the support group and through other ladies that I had met, they strongly encouraged me to go. So actually the day that I had a chemotherapy treatment, I packed up my things and I went to, at that time it was at a different hotel, I went to the hotel and to the conference with, at that time in my mind, saying, oh, I'll go for a couple hours. Oh, I'll go for one night. Oh, well, before I knew it, the conference was over and I was still there. Yeah.
So what was that first conference experience like for you?
Life-changing. Absolutely life-changing. I met lifelong friends. Like I said the other day, they're like my family. Everyone in the room going through, well, not everyone has a different journey, certainly, and everyone goes through, but just that common, you know, diagnosis. So I got to learn a lot about the disease itself, and like Joan said, the genetics piece, the mental health piece, all those things. I had no idea. I was, you know, had no knowledge of breast cancer. And all the supports and talking to women who shared their experiences, and it was just, it was life-changing, honestly, yeah.
So what point did you switch from conference attendee to committee member?
Well, of course, now COVID the last couple of years, so it was actually, I was part of the committee with the last conference that we had before COVID.
Okay.
Yeah, so this will be my second one.
So this is the first we'll say post-COVID conference,
yes.
And you guys will be getting together in person. What are you excited about for this conference?
I am excited. The main thing for me is for other women who have breast cancer to be able to get, and that's part of why I love being on the committee, because I know personally what I gained from going to my first conference, and I really want other women to experience what I did and how it helped me physically, mentally, emotionally. I really would like to see that for other women.
So when we started this conversation, you said you were 40 when you found out, which is once again still really early for a lot of people to be diagnosed with breast cancer. What advice do you have for young women and women in their middle age of trying to make sure that they're doing what they need to do to prevent it or to catch it early?
Self-examination, 100%. Could be, like I said, that's how I found the lump that I had, and being your own advocate. For whatever, you know, for going to your doctor. And a lot of times when you are young, I think, and it was in my head as well, that, oh my God, I'm so young, it can't be cancer. So if a woman finds a lump and she's young, she's like, oh my God, this is cyst, or oh, it's this, or oh, it's that, or it can't be, I'm too young. But no, it doesn't matter. There's no age limit on, you know, I mean, we've seen women in their 30s, early 30s. So yeah, just start self-breast examination at a very early age and continue to do so. And once there is an issue or you feel like there's a possible issue, be your own advocate and speak for yourself to get what needs to be done. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you didn't have history of cancer in your family?
Just one aunt, that was it. So I didn't feel like it was a strong a strong history.
Has it changed how you now talk to your family and other people you associate with when it comes to early detection?
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't have any children of my own. I have 2 stepchildren. But like I work, I'm a nurse, I work at the Janeway, so I work with all women. So of course, you know, those conversations take place, and I've heard people say, you know, this don't feel right or that don't feel, that's, and I'm, no, you know, like I'm very vocal about, if you think it's something, if you have any hesitation whatsoever, go and get it seen to. So we've had those conversations, like I said, we work with all women, so it's just fairly often that.
If you had one thing you wanted to say to our audience about either sort of being a cancer survivor, about the conference, or about your entire journey, what would you like them to know?
Well, I would encourage women who are either survivors or currently going through treatments, because like I said, I left chemo and went to my first conference, or even in the beginning stages. I would highly recommend going to this conference that's taking place now in November at the Sheraton, because what you will gain, not just knowledge, but what you will gain from meeting these women and sitting with these women, people who understand what you're going through. And like I said, there's that formal piece, but there's also the piece of, you know, sitting in someone's hotel room at, you know, all hours of the night in your pajamas and sharing those stories, and being able to, things that you can't talk about at home or in a more professional setting, you can just kind of let loose, let it out. And the knowledge you will gain from what these women have been through, and the emotional support that you will get, and lifelong friends, is, there's no word to express what they'll gain from going to the conference.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And we'll be right back, everyone.
If you have a comment about this program, we'd love to hear it. Email or call us, or send us your feedback through social media.
That was absolutely amazing getting to talk to both Joan and Sonya about their breast cancer experience and about living as a survivor. If you're interested in learning more about the Growing Our Strength Breast Cancer Conference taking place November 11th to 13th, please visit cancercarefoundation.ca. And remember, the best way is through early detection and self-examinations. Thank you so much for joining me this evening, and remember, your health is important. And we'll see you all next time.
If you have a comment about this program,